Welcome to the Daba Africa Investment Weekly Podcast. This is your go to source for the latest and greatest investment news from the African continent. Each weekend, we bring you a comprehensive rundown of the biggest stories and trends shaping the world of finance and business in Africa. Whether you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, this podcast will keep you informed and ahead of the curve. So sit back, grab a coffee, and join us as we dive into the exciting world of investment in Africa. Here are our top stories of the past week. Egyptian fintech and e-commerce company M&T Hallen became Africa's latest unicorn startup after raising up to $400 million in equity and debt financing. The deal is the single largest funding secured by an African-focused startup alongside OPay's round in 2021 and produces another billion-dollar startup in Africa early this year, after a dearth of unicorns in the region throughout 2022. Africa-focused private equity firm Convergence Partners announced a $296 million fundraising to invest in tech assets on the continent. The capital raise is one of the first private equity funds secured for sub-Saharan Africa this year and brings the total funds under management at Convergence to about $600 million. Investments like these are crucial to Africa, given internet broadband penetration in the region is still limited, with only 28% of the population connected as of 2020. In another private equity funding blitz, Adenia Partners, a private markets investment firm focused on Africa, announced the first close of its fifth flagship fund, with $300 million committed from investors. It has a target size of $400 million and will be invested in medium-sized, ESG-focused companies across the continent. Despite rising inflation, interest rate hike, and a redesign of the local currency, the Nigerian equities market finished the first month of the year in the green territory as the NGX All-Share Index appreciated by 3.88%. Investors in the market gained $2.349 billion as the market capitalization settled to 29 trillion naira compared to 28 trillion naira as of the latest trading activity of 2022. The largest network operator and one of the best-run public companies in Nigeria, MTN, became the first listed company to hit the 2 trillion naira, about $4.3 billion, mark in revenues. Never in the history of Nigeria has a quoted company reported revenues of 2 trillion naira in a financial year. More so, MTN's profits delivered a whopping return on average equity of 119.5%, one of the highest ever. And now, our weekly headline roundup. Yebo Fresh raises $4.5 million to deliver fresh groceries in South Africa. Private equity firm Innovate partners with Irish-based fund. Amazon has launched new AWS local zones in Nigeria. Nigerian fintech Trade Lender raises $520,000 pre-seed round. South Africa's Lululand raises $35 million to scale its lending business. Mawingu gets $9 million to expand rural internet services in Kenya. Audi rolls out more EV charging stations in South Africa. Nigeria tops in global crypto usage, ownership per trading browser. Sunfi gets $2.3 million seed for its solar financing service in Nigeria. Ghana's ZPay has expanded its remittance business to Zambia. And that's all for today's episode of the African Investment Weekly podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's rundown of the biggest investment news and trends from across the African continent. Remember to tune in next week for another episode and commentary on the world of African investments. Don't forget, if you found this podcast episode useful, subscribe and share it with your friends and colleagues. To stay up to date with daily investment news in Africa and to understand how each of these events affects the investment landscape in Africa, you can download the Daba Finance application on your favorite app store and open an account for free today. Until next time, happy investing with Daba.
The information contained in this recording does not constitute research or recommendation from any DABA entity to the listener. Neither DABA nor any of its affiliates makes any representation or warranty as to the accuracy or completeness of the statements or any information contained in this recording, and any liability therefore including in respect of direct, indirect, or consequential loss or damage is expressly disclaimed. DABA is not providing any financial, economic, legal, accounting, or tax advice or recommendations in this recording. In addition, the receipt of this recording by any listener is not to be taken as constituting the giving of investment advice by DABA to the listener, nor to constitute such person a client of any DABA entity.